this week on the podcast.
A great way of blowing off steam is just to move and just stop putting so much pressure on yourself. Right now is a challenging time for people when it comes to maintaining good sleep cycles because you don't have to get up to go anywhere. In my mind, I was thinking that, okay, you know what, I'm going on diets, I'm exercising, and I was. But I wasn't doing it the way that I should have been doing it. The issue is that there is a mismatch, a misalignment with most people in terms of their value systems and their belief systems.
Improve your health. Optimize your nutrition. Perform at your peak level. Increase your lifespan. Build a powerful mindset. This is Jay Parekh, and welcome to the Alpha X podcast. Welcome everyone to today's episode. So a few weeks ago, I think almost a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a live interview with a good friend of mine. Her name is Priyal Shah, and I was on her channel. And we discussed regarding a few very interesting topics. Some very cool questions were asked. So what we're going to learn in today's podcast is how you can improve your sleep, what you can do, what is the right way to sleep, when's the right time to wake up, what can you do before sleep, after sleep. We also go into anxiety and stress and what you can do in order to reduce that and control that, especially in the trying times that we face right now. Apart from that, we also cover general fitness, fat loss, whether it's better to do cardio first or whether you should do weight training first. A lot of neat things were discussed, So yeah, without further ado, today's episode starts right now.
So let's just get into our conversation about physical fitness and mental health. That is our entire topic for the day. So Jay, tell me, what exactly is the importance of physical fitness, especially in times like this, when you have a pandemic struck around the entire world? How do you give importance, or what is that aspect of physical fitness that is of great importance, and everybody should keep that in mind?
Well, I think in times like this, the most important thing is to do our best. It becomes, I think, very difficult for people, especially when they're not in their regular routines. Like, I know people who were going to the gym every day before the lockdown started. And just because now of the lockdown, they're out of that routine and they find it really hard to, like work out even at home, And I think on one end, it's important to remember not to put too much pressure on ourselves. But on the other end of the spectrum, there needs to be some level of fitness, some level of physical activity, because at the end of the day, without that, there are a lot of implications. Our immunity dips, and that's obvious. But apart from that, I think the mind is also connected to the body. Absolutely. And you're a dancer, so you know this, right? I mean, when you're moving, when you're expressing yourself, when you're doing something that, with your body, it changes your state. It changes the state of your mind. Now imagine there are people sitting at home right now all day and all they're doing is watching Netflix, or they're on their PCs or laptops working on Zoom call after Zoom call. And that has an effect not only on your body, but also on your mind, because your mind is not releasing all these, so there are endorphins that are released in the mind.
That's
when you move, and those endorphins have like amazing mood lifting effects. And when you don't move, that's not going to happen. So you end up feeling worse. And then because you feel worse, you don't exercise. And then it becomes this vicious circle, that becomes really difficult to break. So I think that's the importance of maintaining some sort of a physical. It doesn't have to be the best. Like, you don't have to have like an amazing body right now, although why not? Go for it if you have the time right now, so go for it. But even if you feel like that's not where you are right now, there needs to be something just so that you don't get stuck in that, in that spiral, downward spiral.
True. But Jay, you also mentioned that there are a few people who used to hit the gym every single day before this lockdown. And
Yeah.
right now, when you're confined within the four walls of your house, you find it difficult. So does this have something to do with the environment and the mindset, or do they lack consistency?
No, I don't think they lack consistency. So the human mind, you kind of hit it right there in the question. The human mind is very contextual, right? So we tend to associate different contexts, different environments with different context, right? And what I mean by that is we are more likely to do certain things in certain environments, right? Now, I have been forced to work from home since the lockdown began, okay? And I don't associate my home with work, even
Right.
though I mean I've been working on my own for the last 1 year, more than 1 year, but I always like to step out of the house for my meetings and for my sessions. I like to step out of the house. I don't like to do them at home. I just don't. My home is my space for relaxation, you know.
Right.
So for me, this space is associated with relaxing, and I think that's true for a lot of people out there.
Absolutely.
And I think it took me a little bit of work to change that association. Now I'm doing all of my work from home, you
Right.
know. So similarly, when it comes to health, when it comes to fitness, when it comes to working out, I think changing that association would help. So maybe doing some little things like creating like a little bit of an area in your house. It can just be like a 6 feet long space of floor that you've designated that this is my workout zone, you know,
Right.
and you've designated that as your workout zone, and you use it only for training. If you have the luxury to do that, maybe put
Oh,
up some posters over there of like of physiques that you would like, to look at. Like those are the kind of things that you aspire for, so you
right.
could do that. You could put some messages, some positive, like, e-codes about physique, about your body, about health, about immunity over there, and create a little space, create a little context for yourself. And I think that might help people.
So when you talk about all these action-oriented things like creating placards, posters, putting up your e-codes and all that positivity to actually create that kind of an environment, but before that, how do you actually set or train your mind to do so?
I think, so Tony Robbins actually said this, and I'm complete in 100% agreement with him. He said that, 90% of the time, if a person is unhappy or stuck or they're not able to do what they want to do, like I think most people want to be healthy, most people want to take care of their immunity, want to take care of their mindset, want to do
Correct.
amazing things in life, right? But the issue is that there is a mismatch, a misalignment with most people in terms of their value systems and their belief systems.
You hit it right there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you want to do great things. You want to be healthy. You want to, like get like buff, or like you want to lose weight or whatever. But the problem is that you don't really believe that you can do it. You know. So when you don't believe that you can do it, I think that stops you from taking action. You'll see some people in around you that you know that they're not as talented or as capable as you are. Maybe I'm being a little, let's say, I don't know what's the right word for it. Maybe I'm not being entirely politically correct when I say this. I'm not being entirely political, but I don't care. It's true. We all feel that way sometimes. That we look at someone like, I could do that better, but they are more successful.
Right.
They're probably more famous, or they're making more money, or they have a better body, or they have a better, they're more successful. And I think that's because their value systems and belief systems are in alignment. And when you're not completely in touch with your own values, or if your values don't match your belief systems, it's gonna be tough, to act.
Yes,
you
that's
know
true. So during this period, especially during the lockdown period and this quarantine, where you
Mhm.
really don't have much option to step out because the safest thing is staying indoors. I'm sure you also might be seeing a lot of Instagram posts and memes saying that, um, people don't have discipline. It's not that they lack time, it's that they have lack of discipline, or probably they're not that ambitious towards their goal, which again borders down to, lack of self-esteem, self-belief.
Sure.
But
Sure.
how does this not engaging into physical fitness affect our mental well-being?
Okay. So there are two parts to that. I'm going to address both of these parts. Okay. So one is when you mentioned discipline. I'll address that first, and then if you can remind me, I'll go back to your
I will.
this question. Okay. So when it comes to discipline, I actually don't believe in discipline. I don't. I don't think that discipline works because discipline by definition requires willpower.
Absolutely.
Okay. And willpower, if you look into the science of willpower, willpower is a limited resource.
It
You
is.
know, they did a study and they actually call this something called ego depletion. So when you put a plate of, let's say, cookies in front of somebody and then tell them to solve a difficult problem, and you tell them you can't eat these cookies and you have to solve that problem, they will give up on that difficult problem much faster,
Right.
as compared to if you were to put radishes, which don't require willpower or discipline to stay away from. So the trick is to being disciplined is that to not require discipline. Okay. So there are two things to that. One, I personally believe a man with purpose does not require discipline, or woman with purpose does not require discipline, right? But if you know your purpose, you won't need to, make yourself do something. You'll automatically do it, right?
Right.
On the other hand, there are times where we all slip up, and we need to hack our environment in such a way that it becomes more difficult to slip up. So, when you have a bad day and you come home and you want to, pick up that bag of chips or pick up those cookies. Let's say those bags of chips or cookies are not in your house. You have healthy snacks instead. You're going to go for that,
Right.
you know. So it's a combination of having a purpose and then hacking your environment in such a way that you don't need discipline, and then when you do need it, you need it, but then you're kind of rationing it for those really difficult times, and you're not fatiguing your mind with making decisions about discipline all the time.
That's true. So now when you're
Yeah.
actually going to be inculcating all these habits,
Yeah.
so we do have one viewer who actually mentioned something about the upside. Let's just take a look at that.
So there's Sharang over here who says there's another side of the story as well, when people like myself have indulged into physical activities following this lockdown. Earlier it was next to impossible to get into a fitness routine. Good for you, Sharang. That's great. I think that's
beautiful.
superb. The fact that you've used the opportunity in a positive way, that's amazing.
That's true. So we really need more people to understand that there are opportunities and great times as well, and it's high time that you're sitting and sobbing for whatsoever reasons, but you really need to act in order to see results or get to where you really want to. Is that right, Jay?
Yeah, action is the most important thing. You got to take action, and you got to make decisions to take action. I think most of the people, most people, including myself, this is true for myself as well. So I think when I used to be quite overweight at one point in time, and I was thinking, I was trying, I was in my mind, I was thinking that, okay, you know what, I'm trying, I'm going on diets, I'm exercising, and I was, but I wasn't doing it the way that I should have been doing it. And the reason was that I didn't make a decision. I was still being held back by my beliefs. It goes back to that, your value systems and your beliefs. So I never believed that I could do it. I always thought, oh, I'm big boned, or I'm not really meant to be muscular or thin or whatever. And then once the decision is made, and you lock yourself in, and then you act on that, that's where the magic happens. Yeah, that's where the. So Purvi is asking a question, if you don't mind. I just want to answer this as well. Putting the sleep cycle back on track. Yeah. Do you want to add something to that, Priyal, or should I take this?
You can definitely take it all.
Okay. So sleep cycle. There are a couple of things. One second. So there are a couple of things that you need to keep in mind when it comes to sleeping. Now, right now is a challenging time for people when it comes to maintaining good sleep cycles, because you don't have to get up to go anywhere. You're pretty much home all the time. You can, get up at whatever time you're supposed to be logging on to your, laptop for your work, and sleep at whatever hours. Like I have a few people who have just taken on as clients who are one of the major things, one of the major complaints they have is their sleep cycle. That they're going to sleep at 4 a.m. in the morning, 5 a.m. in the morning, because there's nothing keeping them in check, And I think on one end, having a purpose is important. Understanding what you're doing is important. But on the other end, on the physiological end, there are a few things that people can do to hack their sleep. Okay. So one of the first things that I recommend to my clients is that they get a pre-sleep routine, so something to relax them anywhere between 1.5 hours to about 30 minutes before they go to sleep. First of all, I tell them to remove all sources of white light, so they should have like yellow or red light, incandescent bulbs, not LEDs, something that doesn't, show the harmful blue light. Now, it's not harmful, but it's something which prevents the secretion of melatonin, which is the sleep hormone. So you want to avoid that. You want to avoid screens as much as possible. If you have to use screens, use them on night mode, and do things that will relax you, So try not to do things that are stimulating. So no movies. Stay away from TV shows, stay away from Netflix, stay away from your social media. Definitely stay away from Instagram and sorry Instagram, but definitely stay away from Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of these things, because they're made in a way to give us dopamine spikes and stimulate us. So we got to stay away from these things, and we do things that relax, So breathing exercises are great. Journaling is really, really good. Like putting your thoughts down right before you sleep. I do that. I also put down things that I need to do the next day. I do that as well. So that kind of puts my mind at rest. Apart from that, sleep hygiene in terms of your bed, right? So when I say in terms of your bed, you don't want your bed to be around things that will disturb you. So you want to ideally have, first of all, a clean bed. Second of all, a cooler environment as compared to when you're doing your normal stuff. So maybe cool down the room that you sleep in. If you don't have an air conditioner, put the fan on fast. Wear socks. So even if it's a little bit hotter, if you wear socks, it actually pulls the blood up,
Yes.
and it is easier to fall asleep that way. Do not sit with your phone or your laptop in bed. Do not do that.
Now that you've mentioned about phones and laptops, I would also like to bring to your notice that these days, when there are a lot of applications online that help you monitor your sleep, that actually help you put to sleep. So there's applications like Calm, there's relaxing music, there's meditation apps, and people are engaging more in the usage of these gadgets rather than referring to the traditional methods. So what do you
Right.
think? What is your say on that?
So I'm not particularly against using those apps. I personally use a sleep cycle app as well. But what I do is I switch off every other function. So I have my phone on night mode, brightness is on low. And what I do is I switch off, my Wi-Fi, and I switch off my data, right? And I have my phone on silent. So only like urgent, important calls are going through, right? No push notifications, nothing. And I do not, when I sit on my bed, I put my phone away. So it's on my side table and I do not touch it. I associate my bed with sleep. So I do nothing on my bed except sleep. Right? So that's the association it's again the same environmental association we were talking about a little earlier.
Yes.
Right? But I'm just using that for relaxation as well. So I also have a spot on my sofa that I use for relaxation. So that's the spot when I'm calming down, when I'm relaxing, when I'm doing breathing exercises. That's where I'll sit, you know.
That's
So I've got I use how our brain contextualizes uh, environments with certain behaviors, using environments as cues. I'll do that, and that's I use that in sleep as well. And another part of sleep is actually your morning routine, which is the next thing I was coming to. And very briefly, I'll just tell you, Purvi, that the most important thing is to get your morning routine absolutely fixed up. So having a specific time that you get up, not a variable time, but one time that you're waking up every day, no matter what. Okay, and also getting some sunlight. That's really, really crucial. Getting some movement in right in the morning, that can really help. And you can also use, I'm not against using coffee or tea or something in the morning. So that's another thing that you can do to give yourself that
the
spruce up.
boost. Yes.
Yep, the boost.
I'd just like to address that we have Happy World around saying that I started writing my book and now it is at the verge of finishing. Lockdown gave me the time to do that. That's really beautiful. That's the perfect usage of all your time that you've been offered. Also, we have another question which says,
Congratulations.
what supplements should we take before sleep?
Okay, what
Yeah.
supplements should you take before sleep? I just take a fish oil, so an omega-3 fish oil. So I take that for a couple of reasons. One is it's a fatty acid, so which keeps me satiated. Doesn't I don't wake up with a hungry feeling in the middle of the night. But also I have a meal which is high on protein and fat before I go to sleep anyway. So it's just one of those things that I do along with that. I don't take any supplements per se before sleep, and I don't want to be dependent on anything personally. So unless you have some sort of a medical condition, that you're being treated for, in which case you should go to your doctor. But I personally don't recommend any sleep supplements.
Also, we have Happy World around asking us how many hours of sleep is ideal. Okay, Jeff, this is something that even I would like to know because we have a lot of numbers going around, especially in this zone. Somebody says 4 hours, somebody says 6 to 8 hours, somebody says 10 hours. So, what is the real math behind this?
Okay, so this is, get your notebooks out because this is a whole other topic. It's different for everyone, but typically the way sleep cycles work is that they work in intervals of 90 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so you typically want to have anywhere between 3 to 5 sleep cycles in a night. Minimum 3, actually minimum 4, I would say minimum 4, and maximum 5. Okay, which if you do the math comes out to about 6 to about 7.5 hours of quality sleep time.
So can we
Okay.
stick to 7 being the ideal number, more or less an hour is okay?
No. So if you were to wake up after 7 hours of sleep, what would happen is you would wake up in the middle of your sleep cycle.
Okay.
Okay. So that's when you wake up feeling really tired, like you're feeling worse than you normally would, like you don't feel refreshed at all. You feel groggy. You can't think straight. You're kind of confused on where you are. If you ever had that feeling when you've woken up, that's because you've woken up in the middle of your cycle. Okay. So if you want to wake up early, you time it in such a way that it's at the end of a cycle.
Okay.
Okay. So what that means is if you can't get 7.5 hours of sleep, you wake up when you finish 6. You time yourself in such a way. Right? And if you don't have enough time for 6, let's say you want to wake up and catch an early morning flight, which most people won't have to for the next few months, but let's say that you do. You sleep for 4.5 hours. Then that's 3 cycles. So I've done one cycle as well. Sometimes when I've really had to push it, and I've had back-to-back seminars and things, I've done one cycle as well. So surprisingly, you'll probably feel more refreshed after 1.5 hours of sleep than if you were to wake up even after, let's say, 3 cycles, but you woke up in the middle of a cycle.
Wow, that's beautiful. So that's some real math that I got to do so that I can tell my mom not to wake me up before time. Anyway,
Yeah.
Jet, we had done a poll before we went live tonight asking about if quarantine is making workouts challenging. And
Okay.
surprisingly, we had 71% of people saying that they really find it difficult to work out and that they miss their gyms. And
Right.
29% were luckily very satisfied with their routines and they had it all out, they had it all planned out. So, what do you have to say for that 71% of people who find it really challenging?
So they're finding it really challenging to work out.
Right.
Well, I want to ask them, what do they mean by workout? Okay. Because for a lot of people, workout means I want to get my 1 hour or half an hour of, I need to do X number of push-ups, or, I need to follow this routine, or I need to go to the gym and squat or deadlift or whatever. Now, that's not going to happen, unfortunately, until the gyms open up. Right? So in the beginning, like I said, it's very important not to push too much pressure on yourself. So yesterday I had a very busy day. I didn't have an hour-long stretch to work out. So I just banged out push-ups whenever I had like a minute. I did that 5 times in the day. I did push-ups and squats. I did like as many as I could do till failure. And that kept the blood flowing. That kept see, the most important thing right now is to keep this right, your mindset. Right? Being positive, right? And being healthy physically keeps the mind positive as well.
An
It
active
keeps the
mind
stress
cannot
levels
be
low.
found in an inactive body. That's what they say.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you got to keep the stress levels low as well. So a great way of blowing off steam is just to move and just stop putting so much pressure on yourself. If you can't do a 30-minute workout, do a 15-minute workout. If you can't do 15 minutes, do 5. If you can't do 5, do 1 minute. Put 1 minute stopwatch, put it on, and do squats continuously for a whole minute. I guarantee you, you will be out of breath if
That's
you do it
true.
as fast as possible.
We have
So,
one question coming up. Somebody says, explain power naps.
so power naps are, so if you use power naps really well, they can be great, or they can screw things up. Okay. So you use power naps when you've not had enough cycles of sleep in the night. So when I mentioned 90-minute cycles, let's say you have, let's say you've just got 3 cycles a night. That's 4.5 hours of sleep. Or let's say you've got 4 cycles. That's 6 hours. Most people ideally require 5 hours. I mean, 5 cycles, right? So that's 7.5 hours. So let's say you have not gotten that. So what you could do is you could do something that I read a book by Nick Littlehales on sleep. He's a world famous sleep coach. And there's something that he calls CBR, which is I think he CRB, sorry, it means customized recovery breaks.
Breaks,
Or
yeah.
no, so it means controlled recovery breaks. I'm sorry, controlled recovery breaks, and these are basically your power naps. So what he wants us to do is that there are certain periods in the day. If you have what should I say, a circadian rhythm that is normal, typically around 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. and around 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., you have an opportunity to take a power nap. That's when it's a good idea to take it. Okay. And what I would recommend is either do a 30-minute CBR session or do a 90-minute one. So either you take a 30-minute power nap, which means you don't go into deep sleep, which means you'll still wake up refreshed, or you do a full 1 cycle. So you'll go into light sleep, you'll then dip into deep sleep, and then you'll come back out, and then you're waking up at a time when you're naturally coming out of it. We all, by the way, we all wake up multiple times in the night. We just don't remember it. At the end of every cycle, we're waking up. So you want to time your waking up, whether you're taking a nap or whether you are waking up in the morning. You want to time it with that natural waking up. at the end of your cycle.
Great. So we do have some insights for the same as well. Now, before we dive into mental health,
Hmm.
we have a few questions which were there on our question tag poll yesterday. Out of which,
Lovely.
one major question that I'd really like to address is what is the difference between fat loss and weight loss?
Well, practically, I guess the difference is, if you just restrict your calories without any sort of plan, you're going to lose weight overall, which means you're going to lose muscle, you're going to lose fat as well. But if you have a plan of action, like let's say you do the research and you develop a plan for yourself to minimize muscle loss, which means you need to develop a workout plan that will help you keep the muscle, and you need to develop a nutrition plan that will help you keep the muscle. Or let's say you go out and get a coach for yourself and get help. Either way, what you're doing is you are trying to minimize. If you're doing fat loss the right way, you're trying to minimize muscle loss and you want to maximize fat loss. You will always lose a little bit of both, but the ratios can be played with depending upon how you're using your body, what you're eating. So if you want to maximize fat loss, uh, you need to be eating enough protein. In fact, as per the research, you actually need more protein.
Proteins, right?
So let's say if you're doing 1 gram of protein per, let's say, pound of body weight, or 2 grams of protein for a kg of body weight. Let's talk in kgs because I think most people will be familiar with that. So
Right.
let's say if you're the normal recommendation is 2.2 grams of protein for a kg of body weight. What you want to do is increase that a little bit, or at least keep it at that if you are trying to lose weight. You want to increase the amount of protein that you eat, and you want to decrease your calories from your fats and your carbohydrates. Okay, and that will help you keep the muscle, and you also want to be working that muscle uh, continuously throughout. You need to have a planned workout regimen, because if you don't use that muscle, the brain goes, oh, I don't need this muscle, I'll just burn it off.
Right.
So you can't just keep doing cardio. You need to have a strength building program to keep the muscle, right? And a nutrition program to make sure that you're feeding it. And also, you can have cardio if you want, but it's not necessary. But it helps a lot.
All right. So, taking into consideration our current crisis, that is COVID-19, coronavirus, majority of the research and studies have claimed that it hits the lungs. So, how do we boost our immune system so that we are capable enough to fight this
Right.
coronavirus?
So here's the thing, I'm not directly allowed to answer coronavirus questions, but if I were to answer that question, I would say that a good way of battling the coronavirus would be, if I were to answer this question, would be to reduce your stress levels. To work on relaxation, to work on your mindset, not to let the anxiety get to you. So if I were to advise someone on how to, which I can advise people on how to reduce their stress levels. That's fine, I can do that. So if I were to, if people are trying to reduce their stress levels, one thing is, of course, having a workout routine, having a nutrition plan, like super important, being healthy physiologically. But apart from that, it's very important to control the anxiety. Whenever we are under tremendous amount of
How
stress.
does one control anxiety? Because that's the most common issue that most of us face.
Right. So number one is, so there are a couple of ways of going about it. Okay. There are physiological strategies. There are philosophical strategies. I've been reading up a lot on Stoic philosophy of late. I would recommend a book to everyone, which is The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Go ahead, buy that book. I'm going to be talking about that on my podcast, which is releasing next week. It's called the Alpha X Podcast. If anybody is interested, you can go to my profile and, you'll find out more about it. But yeah, one is getting a philosophy, a way of thinking that helps you use adversity to your advantage. Okay? Use adversity to create opportunities for yourself, how to turn your obstacles into opportunities, how to create your adversities into advantages. So whenever you see it, like whenever I see something that's an adversity, like for example, the lockdown it killed my business. The first week it killed it, you know. And I could have taken it in two different ways. I could have said, you know what, I can just take this and do nothing for till this lockdown starts, and when it starts, I'll build it back up. Or I could use this time to learn something new and turn this adversity into an advantage. So now I've pretty much started online, and all my business is online, and I'm doing better than I was doing before, you know. So it's about having the right kind of philosophy, a way of reframing the situation, which turns, like, anxiety isn't always a bad thing. It's a good thing sometimes. You know, like it is telling you that you need to pay attention to this and you need to come up with a solution, you know. So there's that. But apart from that, sometimes obviously things do go a little difficult. I mean, it goes a little haywire, and sometimes there need to be certain hacks that you can you can follow. So one thing that I do is two things actually. One is mindfulness, and another is breathing exercises. You know, so one thing that we forget in our environments is our stress response is governed by our nervous system. And because we can't run away from our stressors anymore, like we live in a modern world where we have emails and we have news coming up, and with the pandemic it's even more, right? So that creates an immense amount of stress because that's where the attention is. But the truth is that right now, is that really killing you? Like, is the coronavirus really killing you right now? For most of us, it's not.
It's not.
Right? So right now, what's happening? Where are you right now? So I have a friend, and she's really been, like having these conversations with me about mindfulness and getting present to the moment. And she's been helping me with these practices, and it's such a productive way of thinking. It's such a beautiful way of thinking. Forget the productive and all that. It's so beautiful because when you actually sit down and you're present to the moment, you realize who you are. You're not even your thoughts. You are the person observing the thoughts. If you've read Eckhart Tolle, The Power Is Now. That's a beautiful book as well. So he talks in that you are the observer of your thoughts.
That's right.
So if you actually just sit down and observe your thoughts and try not to hang on to too many things and just be where you are, be mindful of where you are and what you're doing, you'll realize that everything's all right in the moment. You're fine.
That's correct. That's really true.
Right?
Mindfulness
And
does help.
mindfulness is amazing, right? And then, of course, there are a few things that you could do. So I would encourage everyone on the call right now, if you have anxiety, go and check out Wim Hof, WIMHOF, Wim Hof. Okay, go and look up his breathing methods. They've been proven to improve people's immunity. They've done scientific studies on that. I've been practicing it. I don't really know. I haven't obviously fallen sick. Maybe it's because of the lockdown. Maybe it's because I've been practicing these breathing methods. I don't know. But there's no harm in doing it. It takes 10 minutes and you feel amazing and it's really good. So that's another physiological thing that you could do. Breathe right. And that'll help you out as well. And Happy World says Om chanting. Try Om chanting, which is, so it's similar. It's breathing. When you're going, oh, you're breathing out, and that's activating the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's you call it Om chanting, you call it Wim Hof, you call it breathing, whatever. Breathing helps. So do that, deep breathing.
Also, one more question with respect to weight training, I guess. Is cardio
Uh-huh.
good before or after weight training?
It depends on your goals. It depends on your goals. So if you're an endurance athlete, okay, and you're looking to get your numbers up, then you're going to do endurance training first. And if you are a strength training athlete, what's important for you is your muscles. Is what's important for you is your physique. You want to grow your muscles, hypertrophy. That's important for you, or strength is important for you. Then you will do your strength training first. So whatever you want to work on first helps. If you're just from a fat loss perspective, if I were to say, strength training before cardio, because you can do more strength training, lift more weight, which will help you improve your musculature, develop stronger muscles, increase the number of muscle fibers, which increases the metabolism, which increases your resting metabolic rate, which increases overall fat loss. So cardio second, because that's going to tie you down. And that's easier to do. Even if you're tired, you can still run for an hour if you wanted to, although I don't recommend it, but if you wanted to, you could, so do your strength training first and cardio second, unless you're an endurance athlete.
All right. I think we've covered most of it, and we have a good insight about physical fitness and mental well-being. Although my last question to you, Jay, is
Yep.
what is that one thing, that absolute one thing that you would advise our audience to engage into to maintain their physical fitness and mental well-being?
Daily movement. That's it. I think it's such a simple answer, but that's the whole point. When I work with my clients, I try to keep it as simple as possible. You asked a lot of intriguing questions, and I went into a detail of a lot of things today, and I hope that was illuminating. But I never really need to do that. I try to keep things very simple when it comes to putting an action plan in place. So the simpler, the better. The more complicated the plan, the more difficult it is to do, and the worse results people have. So as long as you make a commitment to yourself that you're going to move every day, even if it is just for a minute, right? Time yourself and do squats just for a minute, you're good. And trust me, if you do it for a minute, you'll end up doing 5 minutes. And if you end up doing 5 minutes, you'll end up doing 15. Because physical movement has a way of getting addictive, because it's good for you, and it's where life is. And yeah, I think that's the key.
Also, we have a lot of compliments flooding in, Jay, as we always do.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Tarun. Thank you, Happy Around the World. Thank you, Vikram. Who else is there? Jaideep, thank you for checking us out. Tarun, stop smoking. Are you asking us how do you stop smoking, Tarun? Is that a question? Do you want me to address that, Priyal?
Yeah, you
Before
can
we quit?
definitely.
Okay.
Very relatable to our recent audience.
Okay. So, I'm not an expert on helping people wean off smoking, but what I can tell you from, the people that I've met who have managed to stop is wean off. It's also important to replace one habit with another habit. So if you are replacing smoking, make sure you replace it with something good, like working out, for example, and try to make that a goal that you're trying to improve, So, because obviously that's going to affect your stamina. So it could be anything. It doesn't have to be working out. Maybe you're doing something else that's creative. Maybe you're playing an instrument. Maybe you are, practicing public speaking, making videos, right? Writing. But replace it with something that you enjoy doing. I think whenever the craving comes up, if you do that, that will be helpful. Apart from that, I do know some experts in the field. So if somebody really, really needs help, you can contact me, you can DM me. I will send you some details of people that you can get in touch with.
That's right. All right. It was a really wonderful and a very informative session, as said by most of us. Also, I'd like to mention to all our viewers out there, if you have any problems with regard to weight loss, fitness, health, you can definitely reach out to Jay. He's also written a book about the same, Rewired for Weight Loss, which is one of his recent well-published books. Do get a hold of that too. And that's all from our Thursday Night Live. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you, Jay, once again.
Thank
to
you,
all
Priyal.
our audiences out there, think big, start small but act now. You gotta keep going, you gotta do what you love, and action is essential. So thank you very much, all our viewers, and Jay, hope to get back to you very soon.
Lovely. See you soon. Bye. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.